Hi, Andy. Hi, Nahua.
Yep.
So we have quorum. So I will start the meeting, and in attendance, myself, Roberta Chu, Greg Chan, Julie Lealoha, Andy Adamson. I think we are all calling in the Zoom capacity. So I just need anyone to raise their hand if there is another person or persons with you in the room. If not, I can say that everybody attending in terms of the board members are by themselves in their office or room. So I will now, let's see. So I will now move to just the minutes of the last meeting.
So, Chair, just to clarify, so there is no public testimony.
Sorry.
Correct, yeah?
Carrie did indicate earlier that there is no testimony. I'm sorry, I didn't indicate that for the record, but there is no testimonies right now to be presented.
Okay.
So were there any questions or changes to the minutes of the last meeting?
No.
No.
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes as submitted?
Yeah, I'll submit a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Thanks. Julie is our second.
I'll second it.
Thanks, Greg, for seconding. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand to approve the minutes as presented.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Unanimous approval. Then I'll move on now to Kahukumana Report.
Okay. Before we go on, Carrie, I'm not sure, Andy's not a full panelist. He's just allowed to talk as an attendee. Not sure what's happened there. But while you work on that, I'll move on to Kahukumana Report. So Kahukumana did meet 2 weeks ago, and they did review the projects that are being brought forward tonight, as well as the Hokukea environmental assessment. They did not act on the EA, but they have approved the other projects that we'll be discussing tonight, and had no concerns or conditions that they added to those projects. They will be meeting on Thursday, and I'm sure as we will be discussing tonight, a lot of the discussion will center on House Bill. The other projects that we'll be discussing tonight, and had no feedback there. So nothing else to report from Kahukumana at this time.
Okay, then we can move on to Executive Director's report.
Okay. So what I'd like to do this evening is provide some background on House Bill 2024 Conference Draft 1. As I've been sharing with you folks via my updates, Conference Draft 1 did pass out of the conference committee last week, Friday, and was presented in both chambers for floor votes today. It did pass the votes by both chambers. So now will be sent to the governor for either signature or veto. On the House side today, there were, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 representatives who voted aye with reservations. That included Representatives Gates, Holt, Capella, Lopresti, McKelvey, Tokioka, and Ward. And there were 2 no votes, Representatives Hashim and Kobayashi. On the Senate side, there were 3 no votes, Senators Inouye, Senator Rhodes, and Senator Ocasio. And there were 3 aye votes with reservations, Senators Taniguchi, Baker, and San Buenaventura. Conference Draft 1 establishes a new Mauna Kea Stewardship Oversight Authority, or what we have been referring to as MK-SOA, with an 11-member governing board, 3 of whom are ex officio, the chair of the Regents, the chair of the Land Board, and the mayor, Hawaii County Mayor. And the remainder are appointed by the governor and confirmed by the Senate, excuse me. The authority is what they call an attached state agency. It is attached to DLNR for administrative purposes, and it reports to the legislature.
Greg, I think the CD1 actually took out the word attached, right? And said it's not subject to that attached.
Oh, I thought it was still in there.
Thing.
Okay.
But it's part of DLNR in some fashion.
Okay, thank you. Been so much going on, it's hard to track every single detail. There is a 5-year transition period where UH and MK-SOA jointly manage the lands that are currently under UH's jurisdiction. So under our general lease, the 10,000 or 11,000 plus acres, along with Halepohaku and the roadway easement. In 2028, all of UH's authorities and responsibilities, along with those of the BLNR and LUC, the Land Use Commission, transfer to MK-SOA, and MK-SOA becomes the principal authority for these lands. There are many, many other aspects of the bill, far too many to go into detail here. But I think suffice it to say that this new authority will hold powers far greater than UH has had, and perhaps even the BLNR. We have been carefully reviewing CD1 and its impact on our stewardship programs as well as our astronomy interests. Care for the Mauna is, as well as astronomy, are priorities for the university, and we have always felt those two can go hand in hand. President Lasner will issue UH's formal response, hopefully tomorrow. He has been working on it. There are some elements of CD1 that are very helpful and supportive of UH and astronomy, specifically the commitment for astronomy on Mauna Kea as being a state policy. There are also some elements that raise possible constitutional and legal concerns, but those are matters that the AG and the DLNR will need to take the lead on. If enacted, one implication is that UH will pause all work on the preparation of our EIS for a new master lease as Conference Draft 1 imposes a moratorium on all new leases. We will also pause all discussions with the MKOs on new subleases. We will still be moving forward and requesting Board of Regents approval of our updated comprehensive management plan on May 19th, the plan that this body approved. As we will still have management responsibility and would continue to do so until 2028. And I will be discussing with Chair Case about bringing the CMP forward to the Land Board for their approval as well. If enacted, also, Conference Draft 1 will obviously have an impact on the role and membership of Maunakea Management Board going forward. So I will be making a motion later on in our agenda to discuss some of these ramifications in executive session. The second item I wanted to report on is just something that came up during this whole legislative session. As some of you know, you may have known Fritz, who worked with us for many, many years. We have been in the process of redefining that position, and we're ready to post the position. But the legislature has identified that position as one to be swept in their review of our budget. So we are on hold pending finalization of the budget and our request for reconsideration of that position being swept. So unfortunately, it's a key position that we have not been able to fill yet, and are hopeful that we will be able to fill it, that we'll get the position back and we'll be able to fill it. So that concludes my executive director's report for this evening. Once again, I do want to discuss implications for our membership and our role in executive session, but if there are any general questions that people have, I'm more than happy to try to answer them.
Is DLNR making a formal statement tomorrow as well?
I believe they are. They were in the process of preparing something today. I'm not sure exactly when they would issue it, but I think they're going to try to issue it tomorrow.
Just for clarification, so the existing CMP, if approved by DLNR, would remain in place until at least 2028?
That's correct. The new authority will be required or will need to develop their own plans, something akin to a master plan, a management plan, and even rules. So all of that is supposed to occur in the 5-year transition period. So until then, our existing plans would be what we would be managing by.
So simultaneously rulemaking authority while creating all of the CMP and other aspects.
That's what it appears, yeah. Any other questions? No other questions. That concludes my report, Chair.
Okay. So we move to the agenda items. The first being review and approval of the final Hokukea final environmental assessment.
Yeah, that's correct. So Carrie, can you let Jennifer in, please, and Pierre? Thank you. So you folks have seen the EA. We reviewed it with you folks last time. There is in the materials that were distributed by Carrie for this meeting, there is what I call a cheat sheet that was included that Jennifer Scheifel from SSFM created. It provides a nice handy synopsis of the changes that occurred from the draft that you folks saw originally to what we are looking at now. So that document is called a revisions cheat sheet document. Hopefully that helped in your folks' review. So we are seeking Mkmb's approval of the plan, of the assessment. But we have Jennifer here to answer any questions Mkmb may still have.
I don't have any questions, but thank you for the cheat sheet. It definitely puts things into perspective.
Oh, you're welcome.
Any other comments or questions?
Only if Jennifer, you want to make some comments about, what you had prepared, you may do so now. Otherwise, we can. I'm not sure if there's any other questions.
No, I don't really have anything to add. I mean, our next steps would just be to prepare the FONSI letter for the university's letterhead and then submit to the environmental review program for publication.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. What is the review period for on the FONSI? Is that 30 days?
Yeah, there's a 30-day period. It's not really a review period. It's a
Approval period. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Can I just ask one?
Sure.
I hadn't actually read the cheat sheet, but I see there near the end, there's one that says revised reason for decommissioning from compliance with the 10-point plan. What does that actually mean?
So
You took it out,
initially,
right?
when we prepared the draft, part of the purpose and need was for compliance with Governor Ige's 10-point plan to get the telescopes off of the summit. Yeah. But now with the new comprehensive management plan that you guys have been working on, it's really the focus is to be in compliance with university's commitment. So we just changed that to get away from something that's kind of defunct and doesn't matter anymore to what is the latest and greatest as far as management of Maunakea.
Okay, I see.
I don't have a question for Jennifer, but I do have one for Greg with this. So under the proposed new authority, the EA will remain the same, or is that also only valid through 2028?
There are a lot of unanswered questions about how either existing permits, existing leases, subleases, etc., are transferred, quote unquote, to the new authority. We know that this work will be done before 2028, but to the extent that there are conditions that are just part of our management, ongoing management, that will be something the authority would need to assume responsibility for. But there are lots of questions about exactly how these assignments of these various leases and agreements and permits is to occur.
I'm only asking because if it's only to 2028, I mean, again, there's a lot of black holes at this point. If we move forward, I mean, we accept the EA, we move forward with the construction, only to go through a potential decommission of Hokukia after all this work has been done. That's a possibility, and the reality of the work that could be disassembled at some point. But hopefully that won't happen. Thanks for, I mean, we can only do the best that we can do with the unknown factors of the transfer of authority in 2028.
Yeah. Conference draft 2 does direct UH to continue moving forward with these two decommissioning, CSO and Hokukia.
Okay.
And Julie, I was going to say, given what various legislators have said during this session about their support for astronomy, and especially about astronomy education for people of Hawaii, we're going to hold them to that. So we expect this authority to be supportive of the new teaching telescope. And if they're not, they're going to hear from us a lot.
And for the record, I just want to remind everyone that myself and Doug were very adamant about educational aspects and that it remain in place.
That's correct. I remember that.
Well, it was also Barry and myself. I mean,
Oh, that's right. Yes. Yeah.
The full board. And in fact, that's the reason why we actually initially tied it all together.
Right.
But because of, timelines, we had to decouple. But it was very clear that, the teaching telescope was a very important part of Mauna Kea. Yeah. So
at this point, I'm ready to move forward on accepting the EA, the final EA for initiating the FONSI.
Would you like to make a motion?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
The motion is to accept the EA in order for us to move forward with a finding of no significant impact.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Thank you, Andy. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of accepting the EA as presented, raise your hand or say yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Okay, unanimous approval. Next item on the agenda, information and discussion, the MKO project, Subaru Interlock Safety Project.
So, Carrie, can you let Joy in for these next, actually two, please? Thank you. So while Joy is coming in, she'll be available to answer any questions. Just kind of quick recap. The Subaru Interlock Safety Project is really something that we're just bringing forward for your information and discussion. It doesn't require any action in your part. But in an abundance of caution, we wanted to make sure all of our advisory groups have had a chance to at least be apprised of these projects. It's a pretty simple, straightforward project. If you had a chance to read the project materials, it just involves changing the locking devices on some of the external doors. We don't anticipate, I mean, there's no approvals from the DLNR that are required or anything like that. no site plan approval or anything. But if you folks have any questions or comments about the project, Joy can help and Nahua can help answer those. So we just wanted to make sure you had a chance to understand what's being proposed and what they're going to be doing. So any questions or comments about the Subaru Interlock Safety Project?
No.
Okay. Okay. And the next item we are requesting your review and approval. And this is a Smithsonian submillimeter array SMA parking lot reconstruction. Their parking lot is not just deteriorating, their asphalt is not just deteriorating, but it is cracking and as I understand it, becoming more and more of a safety hazard. So SMA wishes to reconstruct the existing parking lot. They would not be expanding the footprint of the existing parking lot, but however, they do have to redo the whole base of the parking lot. So they will be taking out the asphalt along with the underbase, underbasement. But again, they will not be expanding on the footprint of the parking lot. The project materials outline some of the more of the specifics along with the conditions that will be imposed on the project. This project does require a site plan approval. And Kahukumana did review it and had no questions, no issues. In fact, they actually were wondering why they needed to review it because they felt like this was just a maintenance and repair type of thing. But because it requires a site plan approval, we want to make sure our advisory groups have been able to weigh in. So let me stop there and see if there's any questions for Nahua and or Joy on this project.
No, I don't have any questions, but I was wondering the same thing. Why are we reviewing this when it's a maintenance thing until I realized that a site plan was required? So
Yeah.
I don't have any other comments on this one.
Okay. Joy, did you want to add anything that I might have missed or misstated?
Aloha members, thank you all. Just one comment that the environmental review program, there's a 30-day comment period for the exemption declaration on this, but SMA doesn't plan to start until I think September. But anyway, the 30-day period ends June 7th. Thank you. Oh, and also as far as projects involving maintenance, is the board saying that you do not want to review or don't need to review maintenance related projects like this?
No, it's not that we don't want to review maintenance projects like this, but if, from my understanding, if there has to be a site plan, then yeah, it does require us to at least review the documents.
That's why our first step is always to check with the OCCL and whether
Yeah.
they're going to require something like that.
I think what, Joy, what comments are being made is that if it appears to be pretty straightforward on what's happening in terms of like, repair and maintenance, or it sounds like they have to just repack the ground underneath the asphalt in order for them to lay new asphalt that's gonna have a longer life. There's not gonna be a whole lot of questions, I think. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Sorry, just out of curiosity though, more for Gary's, is there a cost value if there's a maintenance project over a certain amount that would immediately require a site plan? And I know this one is 750,000, but in my mind, it's a maintenance thing, but I know the site plan does require oversight.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know precisely what
Okay.
criteria they use.
Yeah.
Try to find out.
I was just curious if there was a cost figure that would trigger in automatic site plan review.
I'm not familiar with that kind of a criteria, but we can check.
Okay.
Any other questions?
If no questions, is there a motion to approve the project as presented?
Yeah, motion to approve the project as presented.
Thanks, Julie. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Greg, second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of approving the Smithsonian sub-millimeter array parking lot construction, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous approval.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Joy.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the Mkmb membership.
Yeah, so Chair, as I indicated in my Executive Director's report, I'd like to request that we move into a motion. I'll make a motion that we move into executive session. I'd like to discuss the implications on our membership and our role going forward of HB 2024 Conference Draft 1.
Is there a second to the motion?
I second the motion.
Thank you, Julie. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, we will now officially move into executive session, which means we will sign off and then sign back in after executive session. Thank
Oh,
you.
your Chair, I should have clarified. I'm sorry. I'd like to make sure that Nahua and Wally are also will join us in executive session, just because they have different perspectives on some of what's the impact may be.
Okay,
Thank you.
fine. See you soon. Okay, I see everybody is back. And I will reconvene the public meeting of the Maunakea Management Board. We have concluded our meeting with our attorney during executive session. Let's see, I need to look at the agenda. Announcements. So the next public meeting will be held on June 7th and special meeting on May 17th, both at 5 p.m. Are there any more announcements? Greg, do you have anything else to add?
Just a sort of a reminder. You know, I know that Carrie sent out documents a couple weeks ago, along with the meeting documents for this meeting, for the Conservation District use application for Hokukia decommissioning. So that'll be the next thing. So hopefully you'll have had a chance to review it. We'll have the consultants available at our next special meeting to answer any questions, but that'll be something that have to be accepted at our next public meeting. And then that should do it for the decommissioning. We will be bringing forward the next set of documents for the new education telescope at UH Hilo right after this. So, yeah, you know, we still got some work ahead of us. Really appreciate you guys hanging in there with us. But it's an important project, and we do want to make sure our astronomy program at the department at UH Hilo has the tools they need to extend the good work that they do. So just kind of a heads up to sort of what's coming. And it'll be a similar rhythm. It'll be the EA and then the CDUA after that for the new education telescope.
Okay. Any other announcements? If not, it is now 6:50 and I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you everyone for attending, and we'll reconvene special meeting on May 17th at 5 p.m.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of the week.
Aloha.
Bye.
Aye.
Bye.